In this video, I will describe data sources, but also spatial data, which is also known as geospatial data. And spatial data is a common term used to describe any type of data related to or containing information about a specific location on Earth's surface. Spatial data can exist in a variety of formats and contains more than just location-specific information. To properly understand and learn more about spatial data, there are a few key terms that will help you become more fluent in the language of spatial data. For example, we have already talked about vector data, which is described as the graphical representation of the real world. And there are three main types of vector data, which are points, lines, and polygons. And we know that vector best represent generalizations of objects or features on the Earth surface. Then we have raster data that is presented in a grid of pixels, and each pixel within a raster has a value, whether it be a color or unit of measurements to communicate information about the element in question. So raster typically refers to imagery. However, in the spatial world, these may specifically refer to orthoimagery, which are photos taken from satellites or aerial devices. Raster data quality varies depending on resolution. And basically, you decide if a data set will be helpful for you if the resolution is enough for whatever task you have to perform. And finally, spatial data contains more information than just location. Any additional information or non-spatial data that describes a feature is referred to as an attribute. Spatial data can have any amount of additional attributes that describe a location or an object on a map. For example, you might have a map displaying states within a country, in this case India, and each of the polygons representing those states, in addition to their location, may have additional attributes such as the total population or total number of workers or total number of female workers, etc. Now, the main principle of data organization applied in a GIS is that of spatial data layers. And typically these layers represent spatial phenomena that are organized into separate geospatial data models by theme. And this is because we tend to group things that are similar together in our minds. So we mirror that tendency in our geospatial data models. So you can see on your right a series of layers stacked on top of each other, providing this kind of concept. So in this figure, you can see 5 facets of Mexico City. The top layer, water features, roads, state boundaries, and the national boundary. So while we do separate the spatial phenomena into separate geospatial data models in the computer, if we lay these layers on top of each other and flatten them, we can then produce a map that looks like the figure on the right. This map is composed of 5 geospatial data models, one of each theme of information that we have modeled from reality. So by placing these layers of information on top of each other, we can produce useful visualizations and conduct analysis or execute queries. Geographic information system data can be obtained from various sources, but sources can be broadly categorized into 2 main categories: primary and secondary sources. So primary sources of GIS involve data collection specifically from GIS applications. These can include field surveys, data collection using remote sensing techniques, or ground truthing. Also, field surveys are part of these primary sources of information, and they involve gathering data directly from the field, such as collecting coordinates of specific locations and collecting also additional information about those specific locations, but also conducting interviews to obtain spatial information, etc. Now, secondary sources of GIS data include existing datasets that have been collected for other purposes but can be repurposed for GIS applications. And these sources include government agencies such as national mapping organizations or statistical offices, which can often provide a wide range of spatial data, including administrative boundaries, demographic information, land use, and infrastructure data. Other secondary sources include academic institutions, as you can see right here, and nonprofit organizations, commercial data providers, and also online platforms that offer geospatial data for public use. These sources may provide data sets related to transportation networks or environmental data, socioeconomic indicators, historical records, and much more. But it is important to verify all of this information for data quality, currency, and also licensing restrictions. So sometimes we can add some information, see it, visualize it, but we can't use the data for analysis. So we need to be very aware of these constraints. And of course, this kind of information can be found on metadata. So now let's explore the M Drive, which is a network that we have access to through Tufts University. And what I'm going to do is show you first a file explorer. I'm going to go to the M Drive, and under the M Drive, Tufts University and Research Technology and the Data Lab have compiled a lot of information that is geospatial. What you're going to see is a structure like this, that it says campus, city, continent, country, county, region, state, and world. So let's go into, for example, world. Under world, you will see different folders as well. This is organized by agency or by source of information. For example, ESRI data maps. These are maps that are provided by the ESRI company. We have other sources of information like Natural Earth. So if you go into each one of these folders, you will find some sort of structure that organizes the data in different ways depending on how the agency organizes their own data. And then you're going to see something like this. Sometimes you will see geodatabases, and then sometimes you will see shape files. When you have, for example, a series of files with the same name but different file formats, these are usually shape files. You should be able to see a file format called SHP and other file formats that go together with this file. So this is the M Drive. This is world. And the way we see it through ArcGIS Pro, I'm going to open the project as well. I'm going to go to folders, expand folders, and then click on the M Drive. I'm going to expand the M Drive, and I will show you the same folder, world. And if we keep expanding the folders, we will start seeing the data. I will open the, let's see, Natural Earth. I'll expand vector physical, for example, and then inside the vector physical, you will see the list of files. These are the shape files you might find in other sources of information, geodatabases. So you will see how they look different. Shape files look green and geodatabases look gray. And when I mention colors, I'm talking about the icon that is representing these files. These are geodatabase, a cylinder that is gray or white, and these are shape files. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new map so I can drag some information and start looking at it, exploring a little bit these files. For example, I'm going to name my map as exploring data, and I'm going to bring some layers into the map. For example, let's go to vector culture under Natural Earth, where I have geodatabases, but I also have shape files. So let's just bring countries, lakes, for example, and also let's bring protected areas. Now let's just explore something else. I'm going to go to, under country, we have several countries here: Bangladesh, India, China, Cambodia. Let's go to see what we got under Cambodia. So we have several shape files. Let's look into villages. Let's look into districts and communes. Here I added some layers. Now I'm going to right click and say, or click zoom to layer, so I can see these layers that I just added. And I'm going to turn off countries and protected areas. These are world or global data sets. And I'm going to turn off as well the base maps. So these are the data sets that I brought from Cambodia. So what I want you to do is explore some of the data sets that we have on the M Drive for country, continent. So anything that you might be interested to see what type of information we have. For city, we have several cities in the US, and there's a lot of information for each one of them. So please explore a little bit about the M drive. This is going to be extremely important so you see what kind of information we have compiled within Tufts. Now, another website that is important for you to know is the Data Lab at Tufts. And under this website, we have the Geodata at Tufts. So click on top of it or this link, and you will access this platform where you can also explore for some data or look for some data. Let's say I'm looking for data sets in Algeria. So what the platform will do is go through the database or central database and query all the data sets that have been compiled for Algeria. So let's say I want to download one of this. So what I'm going to do is basically, let's say, select a couple of them. I can use the selection here, preview layer on the map. And what it does is it basically brings the layers you select or checked at the top, and it will display a preview of those layers. Now, if you want to download those layers, you need to check or click, on add this layer to your cart. This is the plus sign. I'm going to add these three at the same time. Go to cart, and here I can download the information. In order to download the information, I can simply click on continue download. Sometimes the platform asks you for an email, so you need to provide an email so they can send, or the platform can send you the files on a zip file. Again, some of the data sources will be under the M drive. Others will be under the platform where you can find different data sources. This web-based geospatial data repository has been done together with Harvard and other academic institutions. Also under the M drive, we have compilation of data sets that you can have access and use. There are other sources of information. You will have access to these slides where you can just consult and see those sources of information, but also under the Data Lab website, you can find a vast compilation of data sources for GIS. You can also find on the web a lot of these sources of GIS data, such as national statistic agencies. Other sources of data are very useful, that like the World Pup, which is one that I have already showed. We have the Humanitarian Data Exchange. We're going to be using these quite a bit in class. And also you can find information by simply searching on the web using different search engines like Google, Firefox, and you can just simply type the topic that you're interested in, plus sign and GIS, or plus sign format, file format, etc. So these are kind of like combinations that I use usually to look for data on the web. Now, most of the time, the files that you will be downloading come on a zip file. We have talked about it during class. These are usually multiple files that are bundled and compressed into one zip file. And this is just because it's easier to distribute this data.